The result is a monument that is as precise as it is imposing. Despite the remarkable symmetry of the final structure, however, archaeological investigations have proven that Imhotep did not plan for the monument to be a step pyramid from the beginning.
He started with a mastaba, then he built a larger mastaba, and then he started piling them one on top of the other, so you have as though you have a stairway to heaven.
Why the step pyramid was enlarged in these stages remains unknown. As magnificent an edifice as the step pyramid was, few later pharaohs copied it. Instead, they soon moved on to a new form, one that provided new challenges to their builders, and that would change the shape of the pyramids forever. The designer of the step pyramid, Imhotep, was so revered that in later centuries he was worshipped as a god. Egyptian pyramids will return on Modern Marvels. We now return to Egyptian pyramids on Modern Marvels. Just over a half-century after King Djoser built the step pyramid in 2630 BC, King Snefru came to the throne of Egypt. He would become the greatest pyramid builder in Egyptian history. Unsatisfied with his early efforts, Snefru erected no less than 3 huge pyramids during a reign that may have lasted up to 50 years. The first was the so-called collapsed pyramid at Meidum, begun around 2575 BC. During its building, Snefru decided to change the form of the collapsed pyramid several times. Why he did so remains unknown. How he did it is understood much more completely.
It was built as a step pyramid originally, which was then increased in size. Then King Snefru, the inventor of the true pyramid, decided to change it into 4 smooth sides that met at a point high in the sky. And for me, that was the most amazing feat that I've seen in my studies. Because if you deviate the angle of one side, even a little bit on the bottom, it will be exaggerated as you rise to the top. And they never meet. You never get to the pyramidion, to the apex.
Today, all that is visible of this pyramid is part of its inner stepped core, surrounded by heaps of loose rubble, thus giving it its collapsed appearance. In earlier times, archaeologists believed that it had indeed collapsed during construction, and was for this reason abandoned. But later research indicates that the pyramid was successfully completed, then was systematically stripped of its casing.
Over the ages, that exterior was quarried, used for other buildings. Whole cities could be built from the stone that had been gathered there for the pyramids, and that accounts for its present appearance.
Like the step pyramid completed 55 years earlier, the core of the collapsed pyramid was made with layers of stone that actually leaned inward.
The step pyramid of Meidum was built with what was called accretion layers. They are layers of stone that are built circumferentially around a core, and they lean in, actually.
One thing that is known for certain is that at some point during its construction, the collapsed pyramid was temporarily abandoned.
For reason that we do not know, in year 17, he left this pyramid completely unfinished, and he built in Dahshur the pyramid that we call it now the Bent Pyramid. The Bent Pyramid is really constructed. They started 54 degrees, and they could not continue. They had to switch the angle.
The Bent was the first pyramid designed from the beginning to be a true smooth-sided pyramid. Part of the reason it still looks that way is because, unlike almost all the other pyramids, most of its exterior casing stones remain in place. With a base measuring 617 feet square and a height of 345 feet, the Bent Pyramid is considerably larger than both the collapsed pyramid and the step pyramid. However, soon after construction began, problems appeared, problems that are still visible in the structure today.
They built up a ways and discovered that cracks were beginning to form, internally and externally. So about halfway up, they changed the angle of the rise of the sides. The problem was the pyramid was built on a clay subsoil. It couldn't support the weight of the pyramid, and that was the reason for the cracking, but they didn't know it at the time.
The method of laying the masonry on the upper portion of the pyramid was also modified. Instead of the earlier technique of the stones leaning inward to match the angle of the outer slope, the later courses were assembled in nearly horizontal layers. This was not only easier to accomplish for the workers and masons who built the pyramid, but also made the structure far more stable. With these engineering lessons learned, Snefru then undertook the building of a brand new pyramid, one that is still hailed as among the most beautiful and perfect pyramids ever constructed, the Red Pyramid.
They went just 1 kilometer to the north and built this massive stone building behind us, which is called the Red Pyramid, because of its appearance, which is better to be seen in the morning light when all these stones really have a red touch.
With a base 772 feet square and a height of 345 feet, the Red Pyramid is more massive but no taller than the Bent Pyramid. With an angle of approximately 43 degrees, the slope of the Red Pyramid is also much shallower than the lower portion of its bent cousin.
The angle was an attempt to copy the upper angle of the Bent Pyramid because they felt that that was the safest angle to build a pyramid with.
But structurally, the Red Pyramid's most important feature was the way in which its stones were assembled.
The Red Pyramid was an advance over the earlier pyramids because the entire pyramid was built with courses of horizontal stone, much more stable structure. All the forces are directly down instead of angled outwardly.
The Red Pyramid of Snefru is the first pyramid that is actually a perfect pyramid, that has achieved the pure abstract pyramidal form.
No one knows exactly why Snefru built this edifice, but archaeologists have speculated that he wanted his final resting place to be an ideal expression of the pyramid, and the Red Pyramid is certainly that. With the construction of the Red Pyramid, all the major engineering and structural elements of the classic pyramid were put in place. The stage was set for Snefru's son, Khufu, to build the greatest pyramid of them all. Taken together, the three pyramids built by King Snefru contain a volume of stone almost 1 million cubic meters greater than the Great Pyramid. Egyptian pyramids will return on Modern Marvels. We now return to Egyptian pyramids on Modern Marvels. Near the modern city of Cairo lies the largest and most imposing concentration of pyramids in the world, those of the Giza Plateau. They include the biggest of them all, the Great Pyramid of Khufu, begun around 2551 BC, the Pyramid of Khufu's son, Khafre, the Pyramid of Khufu's grandson, Menkaure, several smaller pyramids called Queen's Pyramids, and the legendary Sphinx. The site of Giza was uniquely suited for the construction of pyramids.
It has the best quality of limestone. It's about 300 feet above the sea level. It's a perfect place. It has the best quality of the stones. And this type of stones never existed any place else.
Giza was also less than a mile from the banks of the Nile, making the movement of manpower and supplies to the site far easier.
The Nile was the great artery of ancient Egypt. There were no roads per se, so the river was instrumental. Stone was shipped over the river in barges, not only limestone from one side of the river to the other side of the river, but granite, which came from hundreds of miles away to the south.
Before construction of the Great Pyramid could begin, its builders had to find a way to make the site completely flat. Many Egyptologists believe that water was used. First, a shallow channel was dug around the site, then it was filled with water. Since the surface of the water would be exactly the same height in every part of the channel, the Egyptians only had to flatten the dry portions down to the level of the water. But not everyone agrees that this is how the site for the Great Pyramid was leveled. Martin Eisler is a sculptor who has studied Egyptian construction techniques for over 30 years. He has several provocative theories about the building of the pyramids, which are supported by decades of painstaking research and observation.
I do not think that the Great Pyramid was leveled by means of water in any form.